people are seemingly suggesting that what we need to do in order to avoid what happened yesterday, let's build more universities.
Well, I think that's a fair viewpoint, for our listeners to actually raise. And indeed, part of the reasoning behind the president splitting the old Department of Education into two was so that you could have two ministers focusing on the very two important streams, of education. The basic one, which is schooling, and then post-school education. And part of that is also the reason why the president and government decided to make education an apex priority of the 5 priorities, so that we could have focused attention. Indeed, there are plans that are fairly advanced now, and we hope the president will make some more concrete announcements in the State of the Nation address on the matter of how far we are in building the 2 new universities in the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga. But that's only part of the solution in Perpetual. Important as that may be, the fact of the matter is that we have to address a huge anomaly in our country. Let me just mention a few aspects of those quickly. We'll get time, I'm sure, as we proceed with the program. The first thing is that we have a situation in South Africa, which is the only country in the world where we've got 3 university students per 1 FET college student. The ratio should be the opposite, that we need 3 college students per 1 university student, so that we expand post-school opportunities, both for those students who have got matric and for those, by the way, who also do not have matric. For instance, FET colleges require a pass in grade 9 in order to be able to move in there. Because there is no country really that can afford to be taking everyone who wants to go to university after grade 12. Nor is it desirable to do that, especially given the fact that we are short of a whole range of intermediate skills, including artisan skills, technicians, junior engineers, and so on, across the board. So we need to be looking at this problem comprehensively. The other matter that I want to raise, Xolani, up front, which we also need to address, as I say, we must be more comprehensive, is the relationship, for instance, between programs and courses that are offered at FET colleges and universities. Because at the moment, you can spend 3 years doing engineering in an FET college, but if you want to proceed to university, either you will not be accepted, or if you are accepted, you start from zero as if you have actually done no engineering, even if you want to continue along engineering studies. That is why one of the things that we are doing now, that I have actually instructed the relevant bodies, the quality councils in my department to do, is actually to look at this issue of what we call articulation. In other words, how do we offer programs at FET colleges that also allow movement to university? Okay. Because in that sense, we could do like many other countries do. In fact, in many other countries, if you take the US, normally people actually do their first year at a college rather than at a university, but they can then proceed, provided there is close cooperation between the universities and the colleges, in order to open the entire post-school education system and move away from this idea that post-school means university education. The other matter that I think it's important that we put into this debate is that we do not think that as a country, if we are to respond to spaces in university education, we only have to look at contact universities, because those are very expensive. But there are other now more cheaper and quicker ways of beginning to do that by expanding distance education. For instance, we have got lots of workers. Maybe yourself, Xolani, you don't have time, you work hard, but if we had expanded opportunities for distance education and expand programs that are offered there, it would significantly increase access by our students to distance education, although we are doing relatively well in the sense that 40% of our students today are actually in distance education. They are not in contact. So we need to look at this matter broadly. But on FET colleges, I think that, Xolani, since the establishment of our department, if truth be told, we have actually been hammering on this issue of FET colleges, that these FET colleges are providing skills that are very scarce, that we actually do not have in our country. Some of the people take things for granted, not realizing, for instance, that we do not have enough certified motor mechanics, welders, electricians. But FET colleges do not only offer that. They also offer other specialized programs, whether it's in tourism, whether it's in the hospitality industry, as well as a whole range. In fact, there are more than 200 types of programs that are offered, or subject combinations that are offered in our FET colleges. And part of doing that is the fact that in 2010, for instance, we had about 380 million rands for bursaries for poor students in FET colleges. We almost quadrupled that last year, Xolani, by actually now having about 1.3 billion rands of money to assist poor students to go through FET colleges if they are doing national certificate vocational, as well as what we actually call N courses. This is an effort. We need to continue to make this call, and we've been doing it throughout the year.
Sure.
To say university education is not the only option.
All right, let me bring in Graham. Graham, you've been listening to what the minister has got to say here, and you've been monitoring the situation for a number of years. Where does it emanate from, one? And of course, what about some of the solutions that the minister is talking about? Do you buy them?
Look, I'm very sympathetic to the things the minister is saying and the many gains we've made. But unfortunately, I feel closer to the Occupy movement in the US or in the UK, where young university students are marching because they also don't have places in university in one of the advanced economies. So young people are very disillusioned. And I've got 3 criticisms, if you can hear me out. I'll try and do them very quickly.
Sure.
But 3 institutions or levels that I want to criticize. The first is the university itself. I think it needs to jack up its procedures. We shouldn't have lines where mothers get killed. And linked to that, much better career guidance, obviously. But I think the minister and the Department of Higher Education, yes, it is about places at universities. It is about alternatives like FET. And I think the call for free education, is a cry from the heart, but I don't think it's realistic. So we need to do a lot of university building, but I think the minister, if I can actually raise a criticism, I think he's just giving us rhetoric, and I want to see him do his job, not tell us correctly what needs to be done. He does understand the problem clearly, but his job is to actually fix it. And then lastly, and it's often unsaid, but I listened to you interviewing Loan Sharp, a Labour analyst, earlier, and I think business must also come to the party. It's hard for young people to get jobs. It's hard to get first-time training, even with a university degree. And I think that's why we're seeing such desperation out there, because people want to get out of poverty and they don't want to be unemployed and on the streets.
I think that the last point, of course, all of your points are important, but the last point really is driving something very much home, because what happened yesterday is telling us that there's this kind of desperation. People understand thoroughly that without any kind of post-schooling qualification in this country, you are nothing.
I think it's fantastic that you're putting the problem like that. And it's not the problem of young people queuing and let's chase them off the streets outside UJ, and then as long as they're on the streets in the townships, we're going to be happy and the problem is solved. It's actually making sure that if we chase them away from UJ, they get real alternatives. And unfortunately, FET and vocational training is not a great alternative at the moment. It's building, and it will take time, but it's not a great alternative. And so these kids are probably right to come from Limpopo and Venda and wherever they do, to try and get into a university that at least has had the heart to admit some people.
But tell me why you think that the FET alternative is not a great alternative. The minister says ever since he came into the department, he's been talking a lot about, or ever since the establishment of his department, they've been talking about the FET as an alternative.
Look, they've been talking about it, but the money has got to be found to make them a real alternative. So I think, in theory, we don't want people only at university. We want more people doing plumbing and electricity and tourism and things like that. I think that's absolutely right. But unfortunately, the throughput at the FET colleges is even lower at the moment than the universities. So there aren't a lot of great FET colleges. I suppose that's what I'm saying. And that's linked to a poor CETA system, to poor business employment, to lack of integration, and to all those issues, which actually are probably more economic than education issues.
When you talk about labor employment, are you talking about how the labor market views the qualification out of the FET? Because there's also that problem that you may come out with a certificate, but nobody actually views it any seriously.
Look, I worked for an organization that was giving bursaries to young people to study engineering, and they were doing incredibly well, these young people, across the board, black and white. But then we discovered that this institution wouldn't employ people unless they'd been to UCT engineering school. And we said, but these kids you're giving engineering bursaries to are at universities of technology, so surely that's a good starting place. And they've adjusted it, let alone FET colleges, which is what you're saying, I think.
Let's get the Minister to respond specifically. I mean, firstly, of course, on the issue of let's get working and perhaps a little less rhetoric.
Well, Graham knows, and Perpetua, that I really do appreciate a good debate, and engagement. But I think it's unfair to actually say that all what we've been saying is rhetoric, really, because I'm a bit disappointed, because I would have expected someone like Graham to know better. For instance, just to run through things quickly. First of all, I spoke about bursaries and loans that we are giving to FET college students, that we have quadrupled them. That's not rhetoric. That has made a huge difference. We have to go out to the FET colleges and listen to the students and management about what difference this has already made. Also, we introduced last year a full loan which will be converted to bursary for final year students at universities. That's not rhetoric. Last year in July, we agreed with employers and labor, for instance, to increase the intake of FET college students into workplaces so that they can get apprenticeships. Already, we are actually talking, since this agreement has been put into place, 18,000 students that have been placed, and that's not rhetoric, that's something very concrete. Last year, we actually started career guidance programs with the 9 SABC radio stations in the main African radio stations, including Afrikaans. We have also put resources in terms of FET colleges, in terms of quality. And most importantly, also, we have made very concrete interventions. We have said to the SETAs, work closely with the FET colleges, deliver your programs through the public FET colleges, and all the results we are getting is that there is an improvement in that alignment.